and their security division has started in 2018, and they have operations. They started based out of Tunisia. They have operations in France, Portugal, and also in Cameroon, and I think their operations also expand to 33 countries. And today we're lucky to have Mr. Mahmoud, who's heading the security division and compliance division, and he'll be taking us over Vneuron's main strategy for the coming years and what they have achieved in the past few years.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for being here. Today I'm very happy to be among you to talk about a field which I'm passionate about, which is KYC, financial crime, and anti-money laundering. And today we are going to deep dive into a specific topic, which is how can we transform compliance, how can we make it more efficient through technology and especially automation and AI. So a small background, as Mr. Nasser has presented, I am part of Vneuron Risk and Compliance, and we provide next generation technologies for combating financial crime, and we provide technologies for top-notch financial institutions which are spread over 30 countries. So today, every day we hear about a huge amount of monies being involved into money laundering and terrorism financing. And for money laundering only, we talk about 2 trillion USD. But the figure itself is not the most important. The most important question is how much of that a lot of money is passing through my organization as a financial institution or as a fintech, and also how to prevent that to happen and how to do that efficiently. So let's set up together the compliance framework through years of history and also through years of, and today we can talk about decades of regulation and best practices. So let's start by the cornerstone of combating financial crime. The cornerstone of it is the risk-based approach, which was involved into the war against money laundering and terrorism financing by the FATF in 2014, which integrates a risk-based approach into combating financial crime. So what does it mean, the risk-based approach? It means let's understand together where the risk sets, okay, and let's deploy resources where the highest risk is. So, and to be more straightforward, where we have less risk, okay? And in order to deploy an efficient strategy, today we can set up a framework based from training. We can have also record keeping and governance structure. This is a basement to our compliance structure. And then we have a life cycle, which includes onboarding, whether onboarding a customer, incorporating a business, or selling an insurance product, or whatever. And through this onboarding, we have also periodic reviews of our customers, which could be also triggered by some trigger events. And we have also requirements and controls that we should be doing, like client screening, payment screening, and also transaction monitoring, because even if we do not have someone involved in a sanction or in some restriction, regulators ask us to do transaction monitoring to detect suspicious and unusual behavior. And this, of course, could be done only when we have some efficient technology that automates the process. And all, as I mentioned before, based on risk assessment. It's very important to have a good understanding of the risks that our own organization is facing. And of course, there is some transversal capabilities that we should have, like a capacity of investigation on alerts that we have, and also the financial crime intelligence that could be done on an organization, but mostly on a country level or a regional level. And of course, the data and technology will allow us to automate all this and to make it happen. Data visualization and data technologies allowed us to make this happen and to make easier decision taking. And of course, to make this run, we should include monitoring for our own processes, to update them and to make sure that they are working correctly. So this is, now we are going to take what we have seen into the reality. What happens today into financial institutions, into insurance companies and fintechs today. So the compliance is a complex task. It's a complex function. And this complexity, some of that complexity comes from the controls that we shall be doing, and some of them comes from historical reasons. So let's enumerate some examples of the complexities that financial institutions or fintechs are facing today. So first of all, we have a changing world and controlling sanctions, and we cannot better situated in time than today to say that managing sanctions, updates, and their boundaries are very complex into changing worlds. Also, identifying politically exposed person could be complex because a lot of financial institutions are situated in different jurisdictions, and every jurisdiction has its own definition, and sometimes it could be tricky. Also, proceeding to payment and transaction screening could be very, very challenging, because back in the time, doing transaction screening was very easy, because the regulators in the past asked for us to make transaction screening for international payments. All the international payments passed through SWIFT, so it was very easy. We need just to plug a transaction screening tool to our SWIFT infrastructure, and then we have an efficient transaction screening controls and components. Today, regulators extend the transaction screening requirements way beyond the SWIFT and international transactions. So today, we need to do the screening of cross-border and regional payments, of local payments. Today, we have new products in the market. We have mobile money, we have mobile payments, we have cross-border mobile payments, and we have a lot of bunch of new services and products. And all the technology that was efficient and working so well in the past now is obsolete and has become deprecated and even useless in these new products. So there is a new demand for something that didn't exist in the past. Also, transaction monitoring is something very painful for financial institutions and fintechs. Well, it's painful for financial institutions and something that you could not understand in fintech, because doing some controls manually on a fintech context is something that fintechs could probably not understand. But also, it's very painful for financial institutions because transaction monitoring are well known to generate a lot of false alerts, a lot of files to investigate, to check, and finally we need just to dismiss. So there is a big topic of the efficiency and of the accuracy of the transaction monitoring algorithm and approaches. Also doing some realistic customer profiling, as I mentioned before, the risk assessment and the efficient deployment of anti-money laundering policies rely on risk assessment. But is it enough to rely on the few factors of risk factors that are enumerated, like the product, geographical address, etc.? Today we need to integrate extra customer information into our risk, and today's understanding is very limited because it does not integrate real life risk factors. Collaboration is a very, very, very hot topic into compliance and anti-money laundering, because in the past 2 decades we have seen financial institutions running behind the providers to provide them technology to do the control itself. today we have some certain level of maturity, and other fields has become very mature. Today, a financial institution could not accept anymore that we need to do a print screen of an alert and send it by email to the relationship officer or to the relationship manager for additional information about a customer. This is today, that's unacceptable, and like we are doing in other business automation, in ERPs, CRMs, etc., we would like also to have collaboration into the execution of compliance functions. So today, doing the process without a very efficient and customizable process automation, case management, workflows, etc., is very, very painful and costs a lot of money to financial institutions. Dynamic regulatory framework is also a hot topic, because we have also very new technologies, and we are not sure about their matching, about the regulation. The regulation itself evolves very quickly. Sometimes, as I mentioned, we are in several jurisdictions and we are not sure if we are okay with our headquarter overseas, or if we have some issues and facing some risks in some countries. So it's also a hot topic. Finally, I will finish by taking the example of records keeping, because in the past it was quite easy. All was in paper. In Fintech, all is digital. But financial institutions today are facing a phygital approach. So we have some digital products, we have some digital account opening approaches, we have some papers that we need them, documents, we need them in a paper version, hard copy paper versions, etc. So today it's a whole mess in record keeping for the compliance teams and officers. And today there is a claim from the compliance specialist and in the market to request technologies that are relevant to today's problems. So we can easily understand that that's not efficient, that's very subjective sometimes, that the old technologies and approach are outdated. We have also siloed approaches, because sometimes you have compliance teams investigating on an organization, on a company, but the front office consider it as a low risk, for example, company. So there is a lot of siloed approaches in all what I have presented, and to summarize, all these processes are left behind the constant change of the requirements in terms of regulation. So today we need to reinvent the journey in every institution which is a subject to anti-money laundering regulation, whether it's a fintech, whether it's a financial institution, whether it's a government institution. And the idea is to analyze the current situation, and then to bring new technologies and help it how it works. So to summarize, I wasn't exhaustive here, but this is some of what we are doing to onboard a company, either in a bank or other financial institution, etc. So we have to initiate, we collect data to analyze. We have also a lot of forward and backward processes, because we need to complement. The manager finds that this document is outdated, we need to get from the customer a new version. We need to do some controls, we do some reviews, etc. So this is a typical process for a KYC, and it's not the most complex. So the idea, I will not go through that one by one, but the idea is how to identify where technology can bring new capacities and modernize it. Okay, the previous process is something that goes from 20 to 90 days. It's a very typical time frame to onboard a corporate customer in a bank, for example. Okay, and Deloitte estimates the loss of revenue due to the delay in the onboarding to 25,000 dollar per customer. So how to leave this very complex situation, and how to navigate, and how to go into a modern approach? The idea that allows us to go behind this is to leave that situation where we have a business process and we have a compliance process. So the idea is to include the compliance processes into our business processes, and what we call it compliance by design. So the idea is integrating and making tight communication and integration of compliance processes to our business processes. Of course, we have a lot of prerequisites to achieve this. We need a lot of integration capacities. We need a lot of APIs. We need analysis and understanding of our process, but it allows us to integrate the regulation requirements into automated tasks and processes. So the idea is to embed compliance controls into every initiative that the company has, launching new products, the process that we are executing today, connecting employees from all departments. As I mentioned, the compliance software should not be used only by the compliance team, because sometimes we need an additional document or information from the officer facing the customer. So this, we should not leave the system, the compliance system, to process these controls, and we need to onboard all of them into a seamless experience, and also it should be made without hopping in and hopping on different systems. It should be all seamless and well integrated. And the idea is to move from the traditional compliance, which is control driven, to go to a new approach where the compliance controls are embedded into our business process. So it's continuous and it's contextual, and in every step of my process, while I am getting the customer documents, for example, I will be checking if that's all what we need in terms of documentation for my KYC, for example. I will not take the documents because the business say it's okay, and then go into the process and go to the compliance. The compliance will say, no, I need this additional document. So we will go back to the company to ask for additional documents. So this is the idea, and to involve all compliance controls into the system design. So AI have changed a lot of things in the world, and it has interesting capabilities and interesting improvements that had made to KYC and anti-money laundering. So just a quick recall of what we say, but by AI. So it's a bunch of cognitive technologies where we can automate and simulate human intelligence through automated systems. So this is the artificial intelligence. We have also the machine learning, which allows the machine to learn from itself and from processing the experience. And also we have the automatic, the robotic process automation, RPA, which allows to eliminate repetitive tasks, and cognitive computing, which allows to simulate human processing and the human thought process in an automated way. So these are basic technologies that we will see their application in the next slides. So the idea is, in terms of AI, is to see how processes are being run today and what could be automated. So some things could be automated through integration, through APIs. Some components could be automated through simulating the human behavior through integration and artificial intelligence. And some components will be automated, and we will gain a lot of efficiency if we see through the history what are the process and why we are dismissing that case, why we are considering that file and taking it and filing an STR for that file, for example. And through all the massive data we have, we can automate things or at least have some indications about the probability of filing an STR for that transaction, for example. Then it will be prioritized and shown in the top of the list. So some example of real life AI and modern technologies that being executed today, and which are that financial institutions today are taking advantage into them. So first of all, of course, identifying suspicious behavior. Since we know what is good behavior and what is a suspicious or unusual behavior, through all the years that we are dismissing cases and improving some situations, so we have a massive data that we can take advantage of it and make machine learning to allow us to identify quickly suspicious behaviors. Machine learning for name screening or in a general way for NLP is a very hot topic because, for example, in the region, we consider, for example, the Arab language is a low resource language. So we do not have a lot of resources in terms of name screening algorithm, in terms of analysis, etc. of the Arabic language. So, and this being a low resource language is an opportunity to use new technologies of NLP. And we have we have reached several or interesting results by developing AI and NLP algorithm that allows our customers in the region to have interesting results and avoid large numbers of false positive thanks to this to machine learning and NLP dedicated to low resource languages. So it applies also for name matching, RPA, cloud, and API native. Today, financial institutions have reached the maturity that they do not like to do compliance, but they would like to do it efficiently. So today we have a high demand for system integration, for API native and the cloud and API first systems and the cloud native platforms, etc., in order to empower users and make operations faster. Also, there is an interesting topic which is not mentioned in the literature in a very sufficient way in our opinion, is that today's processes are not automated enough. And we have often asked, or we are wondering several times in a day, to which colleague or to which manager shall I send this file at this step. So the idea behind this is intelligent case management. So it's not up to me to decide whom to send, because I can make mistake. I can waste someone's time because it's not he is not the most appropriate person to process that file. But it's up to the system to decide to which employee or to which colleague or to which manager to send the file. So this is what we call automated routing of KYC files. And it's based on innovative workflow and case management. So it's very important. So it allows us to have a safer onboarding process and also a way faster onboarding. Of course, ID scan and OCR, because today you are typing again information every time we are asking our ID, etc. But we think also that in addition to OCR, character recognition, etc., we should also think about third-party data providers and government data providers as a data provider, because we've seen a lot of experience in the world where there is special integration between financial institutions, regulated financial institutions, and the government, so it can easily identify and validate the data of the service from the individual or the organization requesting the service. Of course, analytics and will easily augment decision-making capabilities, and of course, scalability and agility, because we are onboarding a lot of new individuals. We are opening the system online. We have a lot of individuals, so it's very, very important. And automation will allow us have better scalability and agility into our transformation. So this approach of doing the transforming our compliance and our customer journey through compliance allows us to go from value protection in terms of controls, etc., into value creation, because we no longer see compliance as a burden, as a cost. We never get. We think that we cannot have new customers because, or thanks to compliance. It's always considered as non-productive function in terms of business development. But thanks to integration, thanks to the ability, how it allows us to go faster in our onboarding, how we have better experience in maintaining the business relationship with the customer, of course, can help us create value, and also it will allow us to distinguish our organization from others thanks to these new technologies through personalized experience. So here's a summarize where we can see in terms of the process, the customer life cycle, in terms of onboarding, in terms of background verification, etc. And you can see that we can in every step have similar automation capabilities that allows us to have a better experience. So finally, I will summarize in this slide. I will summarize into this slide the holistic approach that allows us, thanks to AI and automation. So it will allow us definitely to optimize cost reduction, because it will take, we will need less software, it will take us less time, and also it will allow us to be more efficient, and compliance will be an advantage for us, and no more a process that makes things slower. We will have, of course, a better employee experience for better performance, and it will also have a customer delight, because when we avoid asking the customer for the same information several times at every step or every control, we will ask for him some documents that he have already provided to other teams, other departments, etc. So it's important to have such good experience of our customers. And of course, in terms of operational excellence and efficiency, we are fostering things. And finally, we will have all the transparency we need, because everything will be in the system. No more emails to request the document, to request for some approval, etc. And also it will allow us to have the transparency we need thanks to collaboration and the track record keeping of all the processes, who approved, who validated, which document that the customer have given us. So it will allow us to provide all the information to need to our regulatory body. So this is some examples of how new technologies can transform the journey of compliance, or the customer lifecycle journey. And of course, we have specific application to every industry and to every stage of development. Financial institutions' requirement have different context from, for example, insurance companies or from fintechs, etc. So the idea is to make a deep analysis, and we would be happy to discuss with every industry that is willing to modernize their processes and to modernize their way of doing compliance to have a better employee and better customer experience for compliance, which was not previously the case. So thank you all for being here, and the stage is yours for any question you may have. So let's discuss together about this. So feel free to share your thoughts about this.
So I have a question.
Okay.
So what are your, because you're you're already in many markets.
Yes.
You're in like 2 markets. So what are your most important customers? Are you banks, or regulator, or other fintechs? You know?
Yeah. We have 2 major categories, and to answer directly the question, banks and insurance companies, and now we have fintechs are coming as challengers, and what they ask is quite different. So banks usually they have a lot of experience in managing compliance. So what they would like to do is improving current technologies and current processes because they have a lot of experience and they know what they want. They would like to. So their issue is not being compliant. They already are because they're still in business. Okay, otherwise they're not. And so their request is among automating. How to integrate into information system, how to go digital to customers, etc. So these are, and how to include collaboration into the processes, how to include AI into alert detection, etc. For insurance companies, some of them are quite mature and would like to modernize their infrastructure, but usually they are they are a greenfield and it's their first touch point with compliance. It's not a topic that was very in which they were very interested in the past. So when they call us, it's usually for putting a new system to cover all the regulation at one time, and that's it. Fintechs, in another way, are most asking for APIs because they for cloud native APIs, so they can integrate directly the compliance controls into their customer acquisition processes and their operation already digital operations.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
You know that the compliance and KYC requirements are always developing.
Yeah.
They're always changing. How would a system like that or AI be flexible? I mean, is it flexible enough to keep up with the changes and the requirements that you can?
There are 2 ways of changes, okay? There are some changes in the regulation, and there are some changes in the customer behavior. The regulation change is usually handled by a very easy way to update our regulatory framework and policy, because and this is something that is always raised by financial institutions that say that we at compliance, once we have put things in the system, we need to stick into it. We have no ability to adjust the processes, to adjust the thresholds, to adjust how the system is working, and either we need to be very dependent to the IT department or to be dependent to the vendor, okay? So at Vneuron we have a whole different approach, and we are in our R&D processes. We think about empowering the compliance teams. What I mean by that is giving them the ability and the autonomy to update every configuration in the system, to update every process. If we have a new process, a new approval process, a new data that the regulator asks us to collect from the customer, so we have to need to update the form, to update condition, to update whatever information we need is fully controlled by the compliance teams or the financial institutions. So we try to create. Our target is not to create dependency because we know things more than the customer. We can do things, but we would like that this type of dependency, we prefer to be a relationship into providing them new technologies and the new components. And AI is very suitable also to this because it's based on learning and continuous learning. So if customer behavior changes, the learning curve will follow up, and it will be also in the same process. So we will not be change every time the rule. We have a new behavior, so we need to change the rule. The system will update itself through continuous learning.
No more questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Questions from the audience, or?
Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mahmoud, for letting us know the latest updates to the compliance and risk. And thank you all for joining us today. And we'll see you next time for our next Tech Talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Should we take a picture here?
My stream is not ending.
Yeah, sure.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
The whole team, Khaled and